What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Sabrina Talks. Today, on this episode of Sabrina Talks, we're going to be discussing a movie that recently just came into one of my favorite things to watch, which is Love, Simon. Love, Simon came out in 2018 and it was directed by Greg Berlanti. You might have heard of his name because he kind of does all of the CW DC shows, so The Flash, Supergirl, The Legends of Tomorrow. I think he did Batwoman. I don't know. He's been doing a bunch of things over at the CW, so you might have heard of him from there. But the movie itself is based off a novel by Becky Albertalli called Simon versus the Homo Sapien Agenda. Whew, that's a mouthful. Love, Simon is about a boy named Simon Spear, obviously. It's played by Nick Robinson, and it's like a teen rom-com movie that focuses on Simon's life. Simon is a gay man who kind of just was, keeping that secret to himself, but everything changes once another boy posts on their school gossip website. So think Gossip Girl, or think that website that they had in Victoria's. I don't forget what that's called, but he posts on there basically saying, no one knows that I'm gay. So Simon starts a kind of pen pal secret relationship with the boy, which in the movie is called Blue. So the movie kind of focuses on Simon trying to figure out who the heck Blue is, because throughout the movie you see their relationship kind of grow and you're trying to figure out who Blue is. It's basically your average teen movie because it has romance, it has the teen drama, it has high school drama, all that good stuff, but this one is just kind of told in the perspective of a gay boy. Before I get into my thoughts, let me tell you my relationship with this movie. I saw this movie when it came out in 2018, and it came out, I believe, in March or something. I have the exact date somewhere. I remember hearing about the movie because the trailers were everywhere, and I'm almost always down for a teen story, a teen rom-com, a teen drama. I'm here for it all. So when I heard this movie was coming out, I was like, I'm there. Then I watched all the trailers and realized that, it was actually a teen movie, but it was about a gay boy instead of a normal straight boy or straight girl. I was like, we gotta support the LGBTQ community. We gotta get the ticket sales so that way they can tell more stories like that. It's the same thing you gotta do with black movies. You know, a black movie's coming out, you gotta go support it because money talks. So the more money it makes, the more incentive it will have to make more of that kind of story. So I was like, I'm here for it. Let's go. One day I was trying to figure out when it was coming out, and I saw that they had early screenings the week before it was supposed to come out. So I love me a good exclusive. So I dragged my sister along with me and we went, and we'll get into how I felt about the movie, but that's how I saw it. So with that being said, let's talk about my thoughts on this movie. Now you see I have a Love, Simon shirt. Also have this movie on DVD. You can already tell I love this movie. Prime examples of Sabrina loves it. But I'm going to tell you why I love this movie. I'm also going to tell you some of the things I don't like with this movie. But let's first get into why I love this movie. One of the reasons why I love this movie is just, it's so freaking cute. It gives me warm, fuzzy feelings. It just makes me happy. It brings me joy. You know the movies you go to when you kind of sad and you just kind of want to see someone else's life going well? This is a movie you need to watch. The movie is cute, but it's also surprisingly funny. Most teen movies always try to have some comedy in it. Sometimes the comedy is good. Sometimes it's you try a little too hard to be teen, but this movie is so funny. All of the comedy isn't all just verbal things. Sometimes it's just things in the background that just really just be having me cracking up laughing. Granted, a lot of things can make me laugh easily, so maybe that's just me. There's a character in this movie called Mrs. Albright. She's the drama teacher. She's so funny. She's the funniest character in this movie, hands down. Why? Because she's a black woman. Black women are funny. I don't care what nobody says. Mrs. Albright is played by Natasha Rothwell. You might have seen her in Insecure, or the Black Lady sketch show. I'm pretty sure she's been on Saturday Night Live. I think she was in a couple episodes of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I mean, this girl's funny. The whole movie, every line she said, she had me dying laughing. I was cracking up. Mr. Worth, who's the vice principal of Creekwood High, he's also hilarious. Everything he says makes me crack up laughing. So him and Miss Albright together killing me every time. Which brings me to another point. All of the adults in this movie are actually great, which is surprising. Because in teen movies, they love making adults the bad guy. They love making adults idiots. All of the adults in this movie. You'll see the vice principal. Like I said, you'll see Mrs. Albright, the drama teacher, Simon's mom and dad. All of them, fantastic human beings. All of them are funny for the most part. None of them are terrible. None of them treat the kids terrible. A+ for the writing of all the adults because they did a great job. The world in which Love, Simon takes place also feels real, like lived in. Nothing felt like these characters are just kind of there, if that makes sense. Everyone feels real, world feels lived in, their routine feels like they actually do these things. I'm pretty sure this movie takes place in their senior year, so the movie's supposed to sell to me that these people have literally been friends for years. They have a routine that they've been doing for years, you know. That's what the world of the movie is supposed to sell you. And it really does. You just kind of know by how they act. That makes sense. I told y'all, I'm not a critic. I can't give you no beautifully worded explanations on how I feel. I can just kind of tell you how I feel in my words. As with most teen movies, there's definitely some teenage cringe going on. You know, that secondhand embarrassment. There's a good chunk of that, which adds to the realness of the world. It doesn't feel like everyone's just kind of out here perfect. No one's doing embarrassing things. No, everybody's doing some kind of embarrassing nonsense. And the cringe sometimes can be funny and sometimes can just really be like, I mean, you can't have a teen movie, you can't have a teen show, you can't have anything teen related without cringe. I'm sorry. Teenagers are embarrassing. We're all embarrassing at all ages of our life, but teenagers, embarrassing. They do embarrassing things, so you need to have some cringe in your movie, which this movie delivers. And it's realistic cringe. It's not like forced cringe where you can see it coming because you just know something, they're just about to do some nonsense that's not funny. No, it's like realistic cringe where like, no, I definitely know some kid back in my high school who used to do just exactly that. The teens in this movie actually speak as if I'd imagine I'm no teenager anymore, but I imagine this is how teenagers talk nowadays. Still has some like Hollywood, I imagine this is how teenagers speak to it, but it's a lot more subdued than like, say, if you ever seen Riverdale. I can't imagine teenagers actually speaking like the way that they do in Riverdale. But this one, it has some like, okay, I'm sure no one says that, but I'm 25. I don't hang around enough teenagers to know whether or not they actually speak like this, but to me, it seemed like how I used to speak in high school, so that's what I'm basing it off of. Since this movie is so like realistic in the way it portrays its characters and the way that everyone acts, to me it makes the characters even more relatable, and I think Simon Spear is fairly relatable. Even if you're not gay or white or a man, I feel like you can relate to Simon in the ways he just goes about things because he's a teenager. We've all been teenagers. Some of us are still teenagers. You know, the way you used to act when you were a teenager is the way I feel like Simon acts. He says dumb things, does dumb things. The way he reacts to like something that happens is the way I used to act. Anytime he get a message from Blue, this boy is smiling from ear to ear. He's over here like giggling to himself. He's running. He's doing all kind of things to make sure he sees the message, to make sure he responds to the message. He's doing nonsense just for Blue, which, I mean, if you had a crush in high school, I guarantee you was probably doing the same thing. The concerns some of the teenagers and Simon himself had throughout the movie were also something anybody can relate to. There's aspects of people that you can kind of be like, oh, it's me when I was growing up, or oh, that's me now. Like, I definitely feel like there's a multitude of ways you can kind of relate to somebody in this movie. Another thing I really love about this movie is the way it engages in the online relationship between Blue and Simon. The way the movie showcases him having just the email conversations back and back with Blue is something that I really enjoy. So the way they do is, I guess maybe a slight spoiler, I don't know, they might have put it in the trailer, but they'll show Simon, you know, tip-tapping along on his phone or like his laptop or something, and then when Simon is reading whatever Blue sent him, it'll usually show like a boy typing along on like a computer in like a blue huge room. The boy, each time they do it, changes based on who Simon believes at the time in the movie is Blue. The way they filmed that to me was very impressive because they could have just had Simon tip-tapping along and maybe like a narration of whatever Blue is saying, but it's still focused on Simon. But instead, they do it in a way where you're kind of in Simon's brain envisioning, you know, whoever Blue is, which I really enjoyed. Since Love, Simon is based off of the novel, I think they really did a good job of adapting the novel. I read the book a little bit after I saw the movie, and usually I tend to like to read the book before I watch the movie. I'm definitely like that kind of person. I didn't even know this book existed, so obviously I read the book after the movie came out, after I loved the movie, because I was like, if I love the movie, I'm for sure gonna love the book. You know, slight review on the book. The book's really good, it's real cute, it's real funny, has the same elements of the movie, which is great, which is why I say the movie did such a good job of adapting the book. It changed some things. One of the things I don't fully like, which I'll get into later, but essentially the feel of the book is the same. Because a good adaptation obviously doesn't fully copy word for word what the book is saying. The adaptation will usually, you know, add something different, add a new flavor to the movie, which it did. The coming out scenes in this movie are so genuinely sweet. Simon comes out to one character first. It was beautiful and just real simple. And then Simon obviously eventually comes out to his parents. The way each parent, you know, reacted to Simon coming out was beautiful. Jennifer Gardner, who plays the mom in this movie, she does a beautiful speech. When I first saw this movie in theaters, that scene with Jennifer Gardner and Simon, literally, I wasn't full on crying, but the tear ducts were working. And then with the scene with Josh Duhamel and Simon, who's Josh Duhamel plays Simon's dad, it's also really, really great, and it matches the character of the dad. Both of the ways they did it, I think they handled it beautifully. I've gushed enough about the movie. Let's talk about some of the things that I don't really like about the movie. First main thing I don't like is his friend. In the beginning of the movie, his friends, fine, dandy, cute group of friends. There's an incident that happens in the movie that's the big, like, the climax of the movie. And after that point, I don't like his friends. I cannot stand his friends because the way that they act is trash. I won't get into why I don't like the things that they did and the way that they acted because it's a spoiler of what the big moment of the movie is, but they just don't act like true friends, which takes away some of the realness of the movie. Because if they've been friends for basically all of their life, with the exception of Abby because she's fairly new into their group, and they acted like this, y'all wasn't really friends. I'm sorry. I don't know who made that executive decision to create that storyline with the friends, but I don't like it. Another thing I'm not too fond of in this movie is the way that they kind of gloss over some things that happen in the movie. Granted, I know they're trying to do a lot of things in this movie, but I feel like they should have took some more time to discuss some of the bad things that kind of happened in this movie. They kind of go, oh, you shouldn't have done that, that was bad, and then left it at that. I needed a little more conversation. We really needed to sell the fact that you should not be doing this thing. By the end of this movie, like I mentioned in my Moonlight video, as with most teen movies, everything's wrapped up in a bow. All is forgiven. No one's no longer upset. Everything's fine and dandy. Granted, by the end of the movie, it's been a couple of months, I think, since all the things happened. We still should have had a scene where Simon and his friends discuss what happened and they realize the error of their ways. But that didn't really happen. It was just kind of like, oh, Simon, let's be friends again. Great. Everything's all good. And I'm like, that annoys me, but I kind of understand why they did it because it's supposed to be a feel-good movie. So I get why they probably didn't want to have a dreary, sad discussion about why we shouldn't do the things that the people did in this movie. But the show writers, they smart. They get paid to do these things. I'm sure they could have found a way. Another issue I kind of have with the movie, the big, like, romantic gesture that happens is really cute, but I'm still not 100% here for it. So I won't obviously tell you what it is because it's a spoiler. If different people were a part of that big romantic scene at the end of this movie, it probably would be fine. It's still not 100% okay, but it'd be a little more accepted. However, when you put it on a gay couple, it doesn't work as well as I think they wanted it to work. As with most big romantic gestures, it's big and it's public, which isn't always safe for the LGBT community. So I understand why they did it, because it's supposed to be super cute and it's a teen rom-com and whatever. I don't think they fully thought this through. I think they was like, well, it's a big romantic gesture, so, the characters are fine with it and the world is fine with it. And it's like, not all the way, but I can't say that it didn't work, because when I first saw the movie and this scene happened, I was crying like a baby. Everybody in my theater was crying, but as I've watched this movie many a times, every time I go, that probably shouldn't have happened. The romantic scene does not happen in the book. That's something that the movie writers and the movie director added to this film. I don't know if that was the best way they could have done it, because the same element of that scene is featured in the book, but it's certainly in a whole completely different way. In the movie, it's a public romantic scene. In the book, it is a private romantic scene where it's just Simon and Blue. They could have had the same scene but without the whole school there, and I think it would have solved my issues with it, but they didn't, so I obviously just kind of got to deal with it. I see what your intention was, but I don't think the way you executed it follows that message that you've been trying to preach towards the second half of the movie. The same can be said with another scene that they do in the movie. They kind of have a scene where it's like an alternate reality, and instead of kids of the LGBT community are coming out to their parents, it's like straight kids coming out to their parents. The idea of how they wanted to do it is fine. The way they did it, though, it doesn't say, I don't think, what they really wanted to say. Those are the two things that I'm like, you had good intentions. I see what you were trying to do, but you could have executed it better. It doesn't make me hate the movie. None of the criticisms that I have make me hate the movie. Those were all my main criticisms. I know I've seen a major criticism for some of the people of the LGBT community and other critics. Some of them were saying Simon's life is a little bit too perfect, which I'm not arguing against. I feel like you can also argue that in order for this story to have been told in such a big budget way that it was, starting off with a white gay boy who's in the upper middle class, I'd say was probably the best bet on getting this story told. I'm sure there was plenty of teen LGBTQ stories that could have been told that were also books, but to me, if I was a Hollywood executive looking for a next teen movie to go give all my money to, your best bet is with a white man, unfortunately. But here we are in the patriarchy, so it's like, as much as you would like to root for them the first time that they do it, for it to be like a person of color or a woman, anything that's not a white man, it'd be ideal. But the way our society works, it had to have been a white man first. Just the same way where if you want to tell a black story, it's most likely going to be a black man before a black woman, because patriarchy. I want to talk about the impact of Love, Simon for a little bit. When the movie first came out, everyone was just really shocked, I'd say, about how good this movie is. Because listen, you can't always guarantee that Hollywood will do a great job of portraying an LGBTQ plus story. Just like we can't always rely on them to create an accurate, true to life black story. It's kind of the same way with the LGBTQ plus community. You can't always guarantee that they're going to do it, because it's big executive heads for funding the movie, and they want to make sure that this movie is completely sellable. So that means dumbing some things down and really going ham on the stereotypes. This movie did a pretty great job of kind of giving you a teen experience of being in the LGBT community for a Hollywood movie. So since Love, Simon had such success with critics and with fans, because a movie can have critic success, but if the audience ain't feeling it all that well, to the movie studios, they're gonna see it as a loss or something. They might be like, well, our target audience ain't talking about it much, so clearly this wasn't a hit. Clearly they don't like XYZ, so we're not gonna make it anymore. Thankfully, with Love, Simon, a whole bunch of people loved the movie, so of course they made a series, and the series is called Love Victor. Now, Love Victor is a spin-off to Love Simon. It doesn't involve Simon and like his gang of friends, but it does involve his school and obviously the city of Atlanta. So as of right now, Love Simon's impact is only really just kind of on the series that has now come out after it. But I'm sure it'll be more mainstream trickles of stories like this in the media because of Love Simon. I imagine it'd be kind of similar to like what happened with Black Panther, Wonder Woman, and Coco. All these underrepresented groups, you know, Black people, people of Mexican descent, and women, they all had designated mainstream blockbuster movies, and all of them were a hit. And you know, the movie studios were like, oh, so maybe these underrepresented groups like when we have movies that feature them. Like, that wasn't the most obvious thing, but whatever. So I imagine with them being able to tell a teen LGBT story and seeing that it was a success and people liked it, that, you know, maybe they'll start funding more stories like this to be big blockbuster movies, opposed to just leaving it with, you know, straight white men. Here's hoping. Alright, y'all, that's all I have to say about Love, Simon. Obviously, you can tell I really love it. I don't think this film is perfect. It has its little quirks and its flaws, but I think overall, it's just so good. At least it makes me feel so happy. I've seen this movie at minimum 10 times. I for sure think this is a movie anybody can watch. I feel like if you love a good teen rom-com, you should watch it. If you love a good rom-com, you should watch it. If you love a good, you know, slight coming-of-age movie, you should watch it. I think a great amount of people will get joy out of this movie. If you do end up watching it, which you should, hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you think. Also, let me know what is some of your favorite feel-good movies. I'm gonna keep saying this until we're out this pandemic. Please wear a mask. If you're going outside and gonna be around other people, please wear a mask. I don't care whether or not it's required by law in your state. Wear a mask. Be kind. Be respectful to other people. Be smart. Don't be out here partying with a bunch of people because the government said everything can open up. No. Unless you partying with a mask, I don't want to hear it. Like in my last video, there'll be resources for the LGBTQ plus community. In my description box, there'll also be resources for the Black Lives Matter movement. So please check those out. Donate to wherever you can. I'll see y'all later this week, possibly, for my Love Victor review. So look out for that. And I'll catch y'all in the next time. Bye, guys. Now I'm giving y'all real Simon Spirit vibes. Got the jean jacket with the fur, just like he does.